Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip board meeting. Today's Monday, March 17th, 2025, and we'll call this meeting order at 7:30 p.m. Can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Dalzell.
Here.
Trustee Juarez Mendoza is absent. Trustee McGlawhorn. Here. Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Navas-Esparza is absent. Trustee Peretta.
Here.
Mayor Ryan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's right. I'll do that under committee report next week. I've been on a handful of Zoom calls the last few days, and I'll share some of those calls. There's no action to be taken by any of them, but I did participate in like 3 different Illinois Municipal League Zoom calls last week, and today we had one with the South Suburban mayors and managers talking about bills that are going to take place down in Springfield. I tell you just a couple that jump off the top of my head too is there's one bill somebody is trying to introduce that said if you're in your house for 30 years that they're going to exempt you from taxes, you know, and it's like, okay, you know, that sounds like a great idea. It certainly helps out senior citizens and stuff, but at the same time, and we've got students in the room tonight too, just so everybody understands that whenever like, especially when it comes to property taxes, whenever there's a discount of any type, it's wonderful. It helps out the party that was intended to help, and usually it's based on income too, which is even more prevalent. Let's say like right now in Cook County, if you, in retirement, if you're earning less than $65,000 a year, you can apply as a senior citizen for a tax freeze. So your rate is frozen at wherever it's at that point. And there's certain exemptions too on top of that where a few years ago they offered an extra $2,000 exemption for seniors. And for some communities, all communities, let's put it that way, but if everybody got an extra $2,000 discount, in some neighborhoods where, let's just say you were within that $2,000 window, you fell off the tax rolls, you don't pay taxes anymore. But that doesn't mean it stops there. It just means that all your neighbors picked up the difference. Everything else got shared because the expenses are still what they are. And a lot of times when they bring up bills like that, they don't really, even the folks advocating for this stuff, they don't really explain it real well. And I think it's a great idea to exempt people that are in the homes for 30 years, but I hate to think they're subjecting the other families to picking up the difference for that. And that could really be interesting to see. And again, they don't even give you an impact study to tell you what the impact to your neighbors would be if that were to happen. So, and that's the biggest number, is what's the impact to everybody else around you.
Case in point, the grocery tax.
Right. Yeah. Yep, and that's another one, if nobody's heard about that yet too. At the end of this year, the state of Illinois, it's a pass-through tax that like the state basically collects for, but all villages that have grocery stores will no longer get a 1% tax that the state used to collect for the villages. So like in our case, we stand to lose almost $670,000, $680,000 a year by losing that tax. Now, they did say we can re-implement that, you know, on the taxpayer to still collect that money because nobody can afford to take a loss like that yet too. But every village and municipality is facing the same thing. And for some of the larger municipalities like Orland Park, you could be talking, I think I heard as much as $2.5 million. Schaumburg was $3.5 million. Aurora and Naperville even bigger because they got more stores out there and stuff yet too. So it's obviously certainly relevant to saying we don't want to put more taxes on our residents. We are still residents here too before we're representatives, so this impacts us at the same time. So we're doing our best to keep an eye on it, and when things progress, I'll report that to everybody here. Our attorney did give me a notice to everybody that he might be running a few minutes late tonight. He was at another meeting in Mantino, so it usually takes a little bit to get over here. So we'll start with our officers' reports tonight, starting with mine. First on your agenda this evening, you've got, I'm asking for an approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 4 Alcoholic Beverages and Liquor Control, Article 2 Administration and Enforcement, Division 2 License, Section 4-69, limitation on total number of licenses of the municipal code of the Village of Alsip. What we're doing, what all that really means is I'm asking the board to approve increase the number of liquor licenses in our town from 16 Class A to 17 Class A. So I want to have 17. A Class A means you can serve beer, wine, mixed drinks if you like. And this is going to be earmarked for the Taco Burrito King restaurant that's scheduled to open this coming May on 117th in Pulaski. Second on the agenda was the approval to attend, for myself, to attend the Lobby Day event in Springfield, April 2nd and 3rd. Again, that's a day that every year that all mayors throughout Illinois converge on Springfield, and we're updated on bills like I just talked about, and we meet with the governor and so forth to discuss certain programs. So I'm asking the board to approve an expense of doing that for one day. Next is the approval of reappointing Jerry Lynn Kleina as a planning and zoning commissioner for another 3-year term. Her term expired January of 2025. Again, this is she's done a nice job sitting in our planning and zoning commission to help qualify new businesses or zoning of different properties within the Village of Alsip. Number 4 was the approval to appoint Alberto Roca as a planning and zoning commissioner for a 3-year term to fill a vacancy created by William Love, whose term expired January 2025. So Bill's in the audience. Bill, thanks for your service to the village doing that. Thank you for your help helping qualify that too. And certainly Alberto's going to do a wonderful job in your place. Thank you. So next we had our clerk's report. We'll start with Clerk Harding.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the approval of the March 3rd, 2025 board meeting minutes, presentation and approval of the March 10th, 2025 committee meeting minutes, and presentation and approval of the February 2025 FOIA report. And that was all I had, Mayor.
All right, thank you. I'll go back to the attorney's report if he has when he gets here. Next, we had the engineer's report. Jeff Agan. Jeff?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. The Alsip Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan, there's a steering committee meeting scheduled for next Wednesday, the 26th at 4 p.m. And then just an update on the public comment for the IEPA low interest loan. There was no public comments that were received, so we'll finalize the package, get that off to the IEPA, and they will have a draft funding list that'll be posted in June, and then a final one in July.
So as long as just so I understood this correctly, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but as long as there was no opposition to our asking for this Environmental Protection Agency loan, we haven't been awarded it yet, but the odds of us getting that look good then too.
Well, yeah, it all depends upon the number of loans from other municipalities throughout the state that submit, and then also the dollar amount. So, if you've got a lot of municipalities that are requesting a lot of money, and then depending upon how they fall on the list and the scoring, it's kind of unknown until all the submittals get put in.
All right, so it's safe to say we qualified anyways, but now it's just a matter of how much we might be awarded then too.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
How we fall up against the other municipalities that submitted.
Okay, so we record these meetings on YouTube, but for the audience watching, the village did apply for a $15 million loan.
Yep. 16.
$16 million loan through the Environmental Protection Agency to do 4 years of water main replacement and infrastructure repair, and we've got a 20-year payback on that yet too, correct?
Yeah, you have 20 or 38.
I thought it was 20, but with some forgivable interest on that too as well too, and the interest rate on that's only like 1.83%, I think, something like that. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Then we'll go to our standing, I'm sorry, we'll go to a public forum. Did anyone in the audience wish to address the board tonight? Anybody want to speak to the board? No? Okay. Then we'll go to our standing committee reports. We'll start with Finance and IT. Trustee McGlowan.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I request for approval of a list of payroll dated March 7th of 2025, totaling $523,798.87. Next, I request for approval of a list of accounts payable dated March 17th of 2025. From the recap, General Fund, $59,603.41. Road and Bridge, $124,893.05. MFT, $2,326.87. 2025-2017 bond payments, $450. Second series of 2015-2017 bond payments, also $450. Water and sewer, $1,034,330.46. Sanitary sewers, $5,055.83. Heritage complexes, $90,217.22, for a grand total all funds of $1,317,326.84. And that is all I have under finance this evening, Mayor.
All right, thank you. In 1 second. Okay, thank you. Next, we have the Fire Committee report. Trustee Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a presentation and approval of the Fire Prevention Bureau report for February 2025. Next, I have a presentation and approval of the February 2025 monthly report based on our National Fire Incident Reporting System. Next, I have the presentation and approval for up to 2 firefighters to attend the 2025 Hazardous Material Conference in Northbrook on May 2nd and 3rd for a total of $1,100. This includes the cost of the conference and one night's lodging. The firefighters attending are part of the hazardous materials response team and are required to complete a minimum of 24 hours of continuing education each year. This conference is included in the budget every year. Next, I have a presentation to Jeremy Sowen of Opus for the storage of the ladder truck 2014, and Julie Acorn of WP Carey Inc. for allowing the fire department to train in the Berry Plastics building. Chief, did you have a comment on that?
Which one? The last one?
The last one.
Yeah, so we've been able to use the Berry Plastics building. We started using it in January. We were doing recruit training for one of our new firefighters because we all know how wonderful the weather was in January. So it worked out really well. So when it was sub-zero outside, they let us do some of the training inside the building. We spent the last month, every week for the last 4 weeks in there doing specific training. One was SCBA search and rescue, another one was on rescue, firefighter rescue. We did hose advancements inside, so it was great having a building to use it as for realistic scenarios. So it worked out really well, and want to thank Julie for allowing us to use the building over there while they're looking for somebody to take over that building.
And we certainly appreciate Opus. We're getting ready to get rid of a fire ladder truck that we're replacing. Chief, again, ballpark, when we expect a new truck to come?
Probably end of June, beginning of July right now.
Okay. So, anyway, they were kind enough there's a couple of brand-new buildings that just went up. Excuse me. They were kind enough to store a truck inside there over the winter, so we just took it out of there a couple of weeks ago and stuff. So thank you very much to Opus and certainly, as you said, Berry Plastics. Anything else, Trustee Murphy?
No, just the breakout of the conference, how we derived at that $1,100. It's $425 per firefighter for attending the conference and $122 and change for the one night's lodging for each.
Okay.
And that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to the Police and Traffic Safety Report. Trustee Dalzell.
We'll have the approval of the Police Department 2024 annual report. We talked about some of the things last week's meeting, but one of the big highlights of this is that the department implemented their body-worn camera program, which was a state mandate, took effect January 1st of this year. Each officer is equipped with an Axon body-worn camera during the tour of duty. Body-worn camera were paid for in part by a Federal Bureau of Justice grant sponsored by Congressman Sean Casten, and the Federal Small Rural Tribal, which is a matching grant. The remainder was paid for by the village. And then for the first time in the history of the department, they've been certified by the National Center for Missing Exploited Children. Officers are required to complete a minimum amount of training based upon their status in the department and the policies that had to be reviewed in compliance with best practices. The Alsip Police Department is one of 3 agencies in Illinois which holds this certification. And there's other things in there, but those are the highlights. Thank you, sir.
Understood, thank you. Next, we'll go to the Public Work and Boat Launch Report Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the approval of the February 24, 2025 NPDES public hearing meeting minutes. Next, I have the approval of the February 2025 Public Works Monthly Activity Report. And just a reminder for all you boaters out there that the boat launch opens on April 1st.
Okay.
That's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the Sewer and Water Report Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I have an approval of the Brycer February 2025 Activity Report. Next, I have a request for approval of the February 2025 Water Department Monthly Activity Report. And finally, I have a request for approval of an ordinance of the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois, providing for the sale of surplus personal property. And that is all I have, Mayor.
Again, for those in the audience, what the trustee's referring to is whenever we dispose or sell anything, we have to declare it. So in this case, we are going to auction with a 2007 Ford Explorer that used to be a Water Department administrative vehicle, and it's no longer of any use to us, as well as a Water Department utility truck. So that's what we're referring to with the getting rid of surplus. We're disposing of old equipment. Next, we get the Building and Health Report. Trustee Peretta.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I have a request for approval of the February 2025 Building Department Monthly Activity Report. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Human Resource and Insurance. Trustee Murphy.
Nothing for tonight, sir.
Okay. Go to special committee reports, starting with Economic Development Committee.
No report, Mayor.
Next, thank you. Next, the Village Property Report. Trustee McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the presentation and approval of the February 2025 Heritage Monthly Activity Report. And within that report, at the end of February, at Heritage 1, we have two vacancies available for rent and with no unit remodels in process. And at Heritage 2, 5 vacancies available for rent along with 1 remodel in process. And during February at Heritage 2, they got 1 new tenant. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. And again, for the audience, students, so you understand, the Village of Alsip owns 29 buildings over on the east of Pulaski. There's actually 512 apartments. And what the trustees, what she was just reporting was the vacancy there of those 512 apartments. How many did you say, trustee? Maybe 5?
2 at Heritage 1 and 5 at Heritage 2.
So 7 units
7 units
altogether.
out
So
of
they're almost all
512.
occupied. And they're for folks 55 years of age and up. So they're very nice. They're in very good condition yet, too. Thank you. So next, we'll go to our ordinance legislation. Trustee Peretta.
Thank you, Mayor. No agenda this evening.
Okay. Thank you. And then we'll go to the Planning and Zoning and Licenses Committee.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I have a request for approval of a list of licenses dated February 24th of 2025 through March 7th of 2025. And then I also have a request for approval of a new planning and zoning application that includes a new fee for the hearing stenographer. And that's all I have to say.
All right. Did anybody have any presentations, petitions, or communications they wanted to share? I had a couple here. First, I want to, today started early voting?
Yes, today was the first day.
Okay, so today's first day for early voting, all the way up till, actually,
31st.
it'll be the 31st, right, because then it leaves out of here, and April 1st is the consolidated election at the designated polling places, and all the hours are on the front door. Are they open six days a week for that right now, too?
7.
And Sunday, too?
I come in Saturday and Sunday and unlock and lock it.
Okay, it's open 7 days a week then for early voting. And then, keep in mind, please, that May 9th, 10th, and 11th, we're going to have our village-wide garage sale. We don't require any permits for the garage sale on those 3 days. May 10th, we're going to organize a village-wide cleanup day. I do that every year. And please, if you're available, or if you need any community hours for any programs that you're involved in, please come out and volunteer if you're able to. That runs from 9 in the morning till noon. And we'll have designated places where to help us keep the village of Alsip clean. Also on May 9th and 10th, that same weekend, we try and knock a lot of this out at the same time. We'll have our flower sale taking place here at the Village Hall. And we've got some well-priced flowers to start your spring flower season. And then, and I was told the other day too that April 26th is opening day for Little League Baseball here in the village as well too. So, did anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? No? Then can I get a motion to establish the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call number 1 to establish consent agenda, trustee Dalzell.
Yes.
Trustee Juarez Mendoza is absent. Trustee McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Navas Barza is absent. Trustee Preda.
Yes.
Motion carries to establish consent agenda.
Thank you. Can I get a motion then to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, item A, approval of an ordinance amending Chapter 4 Alcoholic Beverages and Liquor Control, Article 2 Administration and Enforcement, Division 2 License, Section 4-69, Limitation on Total Number of Licenses of the Municipal Code of the Village of Alsip, will now be known as Ordinance 2025-3-2. And item L, approval of an ordinance of the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois, providing for the sale of surplus personal property, will now be known as Ordinance 2025-03-3. Roll call number 2 to approve consent agenda, trustee Dalzell.
Yes.
Trustee Juarez Mendoza is absent. Trustee McGlawhorn.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Nava Esparza is absent. Trustee Preda.
Yes.
Motion carries to approve consent agenda.
Very good, thank you. Did anybody have any unfinished business they want to discuss? No? Any new business? All right, then can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Time now is 7:55 PM, and we appreciate your time this evening. Students, if you need a signature or a picture or anything like that, come on up, we'll take care of that, okay? Thank you. Have a great night.